Going through life, it's safe to say that we're faced with challenges that we have no choice but to overcome. I know. This topic's been beaten into the ground by inspirational quotes and videos everywhere, but whether you even realize it, you complete challenges on the daily just trying to navigate through life. You get up for work on time today? Boom, that's one and done. I figured since we're enduring the same kind of thing, why not make a video about it? Because taking on a challenge that you have zero experience in can be a whole nother game, and sometimes figuring out where to begin is the hardest part, which is where this story starts. The thing is, I'm not much of a plumber or a carpenter at all, and we need to figure out how to install our toilet or things could get pretty messy. So after conducting as much research as possible, we decided to just swing for the fences and build out what looked like a fairly straightforward composting toilet concept. For those of you who don't know what a composting toilet is, allow me to enlighten you on the ways of shit, literally. Typically in RVs, you'll have pretty close to what's in a regular residential home, except your septic tank in this case is called a black tank. This requires space for an entire extra tank on board from my pre-existing fresh and gray water tanks, which I don't have, along with being strictly regulated on where you can actually dump the waste at. Composting toilets, on the other hand, requires a bag, which can be biodegradable if you choose, and a bucket. The concept goes something like you take a dump and then you throw something like sawdust or coconut husk over your freshly laid business and then empty it before it fills or whenever your schedule dictates. I guess that's kinda on you. After fixing the first error that I had made some time ago when we originally framed each section of the bus, I had to straighten out the entrance framing so I'd have an equal space to work with on both sides of the bathroom when creating the frame for the toilet lid and front face. I think I got that in there pretty good first try. So yeah, you can see that's about how far off we were. Wasn't supposed to happen. After that quick fix, it was on to getting the frame measured out and constructed. Measuring the frame out seemed simple enough. Create a cube, screw it together. Well, this still wouldn't come without its fair share of mismeasures and confusions on the finished design that I wanted. Cut it too short. I framed the entire box out of 1x1 pieces that I measured up right over my water lines. I think it ended up being about 21 inches high or so, but ultimately after a few hours I did end up with the skeleton of what would be the composting toilet. The next bit was honestly fairly smooth sailing. I began to pre-measure all of my plumbing from my sink down through the floor and conjoining it with the toilet plumbing next door. And if you're wondering where the P-trap is, it's actually that horizontal piece that's right after the drain in the sink. It's called a HEPVO trap, and it can be installed vertically and horizontally, and it also doubles as an air admittance valve along with being a P-trap. And after the kitchen was all dry fitted, I went ahead and began sealing it up as well before moving on to the bathroom PVC. While waiting for the PVC cement to dry, I began to work on the lid, which was fairly straightforward. The urine diverter that we chose to use is called a killed wick, and with the seat they also sent us a template to cut the hole we would need to put in the lid. And once I did that, Kelly sanded it smooth, I got it prepped, and stained. The color we ended up choosing was an espresso colored stain. To get the killed wick set, I just lined the bottom with 2 strips of butyl tape, placed it in the hole we had cut earlier, and then used a clear sealant around the sides. It wouldn't be until I went to set the lid in that I'd run into another slight problem or two. Anything major, one pass with the skill saw and all was fitting good, until it wasn't. The batteries in my camera died that day as I attached our actual toilet seat to the wooden lid itself, but here I am to basically explain where I'm at in the build. Alright, so this is pretty much done now, and all I'm gonna do is like right here, I'm gonna line by the trash can, and probably give it another support over here. I'm gonna make a bin probably for like toilet paper and peat moss, sawdust, whatever you want to use for the composting toilet, and then just put a front plate or a piece of wood on the front after I stain it up to match the top, and that'll be pretty much it. So got that to work. Had to put these two braces on the back because the first time I did it, the toilet seat was hitting every time I brought it up. It still hits after a certain point, so I think I might put like an eyelet or something right here, and then another one up there with a string, just so I can hold it when I change the trash can, stuff like that. So that's pretty much it, man. After that, I'll probably put some flooring right up here. The only issue I had with finalizing my bathroom plumbing was that I thought I could bring my P-trap directly up to the urine diverter spout. This wasn't easy as the fit had to be exact, and I found out that PVC cement dries very, very quickly. So being able to set the glue on and then negotiate the PVC until I got a perfect fit and then let it dry seemed out of the question. But I did it anyway. Once I tested this with water, it failed miserably and made a mess. I had to use idea number 2, no pun intended. I attached a funnel that I cut the bottom third from and siliconed it to my P-trap, which gave me a much larger area to hit, making my margin of missing minimal. And so far, this method has worked great. After making the container for the peat moss storage, which I did by partitioning about a third of the box off with another 1x1, and then putting plywood walls on it and sealing it, the last things to do were to make the spacers I made match the stain lid, create the front face for the box, and paint the walls up. There were a few hiccups along the way, but I can't say this part gave me any true issue. Oh my. Kidding. I hope this one works, everyone. It says it's fully charged. Yeah. Let's see what happens. I think that didn't run out of power. I did the front face of the toilet the same way I did the lid. Cut, sand and prep, stain and seal. Once that was all wrapped up, the final product ended up looking something like this. I'll leave you with this. I guess in completing this project, it was more or less overcoming a mental hurdle of me psyching myself out about trying something that I've never done before, and creating something that I had no plan for other than the one that I had put together in my head, and basically completely kooking or failing out of it, which can embody the way I felt about most scenarios of this adventure so far. So if you're contemplating making a shift in your life that's been bugging you out, getting on with a new job, starting a YouTube channel, whatever it may be, My advice for you is to just go for it, because it's always going to look like a huge mess walking into things, but as you begin to chip away at each task, the big goals start to come into view, and we realize that our biggest challenges are the ones we often put in front of ourselves. So if you enjoyed this video, please don't hesitate to hit that like and subscribe button. We'll do our best to bring you weekly content. Till next time, guys.